Hi everyone, and welcome to the Mental Training Room. This is your host, Haley Herdman. I'm a former Division I basketball player and current mental health therapist.
And I am Naomi Yim, also a former Division I basketball player and a current real estate investor with a passion for athlete mental health.
Throughout our time as collegiate athletes, Naomi and I struggled with our emotional well-being, and we know from this experience how neglected the mental aspect of sports can be, which is why we created this podcast, to foster a safe space for other athletes to open up about their own experiences.
Whether you are an athlete, coach, parent, or anyone with an athlete in their circle, we hope you can gain some insight from our episodes that can help you along your journey. And the most important thing we hope you can take from our podcast is that you are never alone in your struggles.
Now, let's get into it. Welcome to the Mental Training Room.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Mental Training Room. So today is a special day because we're doing a little insight on Haley's journey, and I'm really excited about this episode because I don't think we've ever talked about this deeply. And why we're doing this is because obviously there are other athletes who are walk-ons and who experience this worse or better, but it's not a story that I've heard very much. I do hear a lot of success stories in the fact of like, oh, they got their scholarship at year 2 or year 3 and it's like an excitement thing. But today I'm going to ask Haley questions more about the depths of what it was like to experience college at the D1 level, being a walk-on, and, you know, different aspects like that.
Yeah, being a walk-on and it not going exactly how I thought it would. Like getting there, getting a scholarship, all of that stuff.
Exactly. Okay, so let's get
And
into
also
it.
Naomi wrote all these questions with my mom.
Yes, her mom.
I have no idea what is about to come. I'm nervous, but
She had some really good insight, and her questions and comments, like literally.
Were you guys crying together?
Yeah, over text. Over text, we were crying together. But, okay. As a general first question, what was the hardest part about walking into the gym knowing you weren't on scholarship freshman year, like day one?
So I feel like one thing I want to say about like my experience as being a walk-on is a lot of times I think people associate walk-ons with like you get into the school and then you go and try out for the team, which is a lot of, that's a normal experience, like especially with like TCU women's basketball, like when they held open tryouts for walk-ons and stuff. But mine was, I was a preferred walk-on, so PWO, which I feel like is
Explain that.
common in football mostly.
Yes.
But I was still recruited, got my walk-on spot before getting into LMU.
Yeah.
So it was a similar process to a lot of people, who we were playing club with. I was actually the first one to commit on my club team that summer going into my senior year. I still like went through the recruiting process, like with LMU and UCI, those were like the top two. And then chose LMU because of location. My parents went to UCI, so also kind of wanting to like have my own
identity.
School, own identity and stuff like that. So why I say that is because the context that provides is like, I didn't feel very different. Yeah.
That's a good thing.
Especially because you were the only other one. There was one other walk-on in our class.
She was academic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was academic scholarship, but you were like the only one really that like I knew, and it wasn't like a huge class. So I think that goes into it as well.
Okay.
Is like I didn't feel a huge inferiority or anything like that the first day. Because when I remember we didn't even have gear like the first day. We were wearing other stuff. Yeah. So like and honestly having you too, like you didn't look at me differently.
No,
like there was nothing that mentally and again, when you say the first day, Day one, there was nothing that was super crazy that made me feel. Actually, one of the things though that was different was there was like a lot of articles about you committing to LMU. And because of like technicalities or whatever, like they're not allowed to talk about walk-ons.
Really?
So that was the only thing.
Okay.
Was like I knew from the jump that was like a little different. I was just confused, like, okay.
Why not me?
Yeah. Right. And then like I remember in the article that they did write about me and the other walk-on, it was like you were like the main attention, which like obviously you deserve that, but I was always like, okay, that's like,
But
what
I
is
don't-
that? Yeah,
I'm here.
exactly.
I know you said it a little bit, but do you feel that that has changed, that experience changed throughout the years going into senior year?
Yeah. Definitely my freshman through junior year. It was very noticeable. I don't know if it's like power imbalance or just the way that I was viewed. And again, not by any of my teammates. Like
Yeah.
even playing with Gabby Green, who ended up getting drafted and like getting a training camp offer in the W. Like she never looked at me as different. Like it was never my teammates who made me feel that way. But the way that I was then like continuously treated by like coaching staff and other things like that, especially on travel. Like I was categorized with the team managers when we were traveling. Like I always had to carry the extra bags. I was the one that like had to make sure everyone was on the bus on time. Like honestly, a lot of responsibility for a walk-on, I feel like. And again, I get how that's like the stereotypical view of a walk-on is like, oh yeah, you carry the bags, you do this, blah, blah. But that's not what I was told in the recruiting process.
Exactly.
Which is why it was such a shock experiencing that firsthand when I was on the team.
Do you feel like with the process of being a walk-on was the way it was because you approached it that way? Like the indifference of not feeling like a walk-on, I do feel like you carried yourself like you weren't a walk-on, because I'm sure everybody else noticed like coaches would always ask you to do those things and be responsible for those, like the dirty work type of stuff.
Yeah.
And we knew that, but we never really expressed it.
Yeah.
But we knew that that's what was happening.
I feel like the stereotypical experience is like the walk-on is doing the dirty work stuff.
Yeah.
So that's when it's like, okay, which is why I'm hesitant to say like, oh, I was a walk-on, but now obviously finding strength in that part of it. But yes, I was made to do like the dirty work at times, but also the captain duties, like the duties that a scholarship player,
But even
if we're talking,
even more. Yeah.
With that, like I felt like I had the responsibility of like every type of role on the team.
But because you weren't playing as much at the time, did it help to have those responsibilities?
I felt that doing all of those things and fulfilling the expectations that were put on me would gain me some type of playing time, scholarship, whatever it was, to show that I can do what you're asking me and
do
more.
it.
So it felt like it was, which I have now learned in therapy, is like that's where my people-pleasing tendencies developed, because there was a never-ending cycle of like, I would think, I would think that if I carry the bag, if I show up to practice an hour early, get a workout in before practice, shoot after practice, that I'm going to get something from that. But that was never the case. I never got anything back from it. So it was like a constant cycle of doing, but not getting anything in return.
So do you feel like there was a moment at all that you questioned the sacrifices and doing the little things like that?
Yeah. A moment that like sticks out to me the most when I think of that is it was our sophomore year, I think. And we were shooting free throws, like all the baskets were down. We're all shooting free throws. We have like a partner at the basket. And one of our teammates, it was like a really, really hard practice. And one of my teammates who is on scholarship came up to me and was like, hey, why do you do this? Like, why are you still here? And it really made me think like, because I wanted to say like, oh, well, why are you here? But then it's because the scholarship, like people were there at that point to get their school paid for, because maybe they didn't have another way to get it paid for, but they had to endure this trauma and pain just to get that. Whereas for me, I was paying for school, but I think it goes back to, again, and I didn't realize it, I guess, at the time, but being in a cycle where I think I'm going to get something from it. Like, I think that there's an end goal to reach of like, whether that's accomplishing 4 years or getting a scholarship or whatever it is. Like, I felt like I constantly had to prove myself and that I thought that I was going to get something in return. Like, I was working towards like the gold at the end of the tunnel or whatever, but I didn't even know what that gold was.
Do you feel like that started in high school? Like the basketball experience and like feeling like you need, like in high school, you want a scholarship.
Yeah.
In college,
it felt similar in the sense that like I'm working towards something.
What kept you from walking away?
People always say like athletes have a really big ego, and I don't think I really knew what that meant until literally I just finished reading this book where it talks about like the ego and what it means. And it's like attaching yourself to something, attaching your identity to something. And I honestly think the fear of not having basketball in my life was what kept me there, because we didn't like, and it got to a point where I did, like literally my junior year, after going through COVID season, our coach told me that I wasn't even going to be practicing on the practice squad my senior year. And
I didn't know that.
yeah. And I was like, okay. And I remember in our meeting trying to negotiate with her, like, how I can still be part of the team. And I was like, well, can I be in the playing team huddle then? Because at the time I was on the practice squad learning literally our plays and the other team's plays. I wasn't allowed in the big team huddle. So it was literally me and the practice players and the coaches who were in charge of the scout, and then the whole team and the other coaches in a whole separate huddle. And I was never allowed in those huddles because I was on the other team. That in and of itself was super isolating. But for that to be told to me of like, you're not even going to be on the practice squad, when mind you, I did good on the, like, I'm not some, obviously I know there's like height and differences, weight, like maybe I'm not as strong as everyone else, whatever, but I was, that's not even true because we were like all lifting the same. But like I was doing good on the practice squad. I remember I made 14 threes in a practice one time, and I never got the chance. Yeah. But to answer your question, after that was told to me of like, you're not even going to be playing on the practice team, that, and it was like before spring break. So then we took spring break off, and then we had like optional workouts that I was still going to, but I felt genuinely so depressed, so unmotivated.
Yeah.
Because this was going through my mind of like, why am I here?
Yeah.
So in my mind, I'm like having all these conversations with myself, with my family. And it was always like, oh, I'm going to quit. Like, I'm done, whatever. Like we would always say that.
Not really serious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this time I was like,
no
way. I'm serious. Absolutely no way that I am going to continue playing here.
Yeah.
With that, knowing that.
So before you tell the rest of that story, do you feel like you said, you spoke to your family, but do you feel like you were able to really articulate what you were feeling or what was happening at all? Like, do you think that like that was something you could even understand within yourself?
What part exactly?
Not just like the feeling of what she said to you. You know, like I have a moment like that at LMU, and I didn't understand what I was feeling until I went to therapy after. And then I understood why I was so angry for the rest of the time.
Wait, what was your moment?
It was when a coach told me, it's not your decision whether you can redshirt or not. That's my decision. So that moment, I was so angry for the next 2 years because of that moment, because I felt so betrayed from the recruiting process and what was told to me. And I had to get surgery, but my coach is telling me I couldn't get surgery because it's up to her, when the doctors are literally telling me I needed surgery for my cracked shoulder. So from that point on, I was so angry. I held it against her for the rest of the 3 years that I was there. Able to identify or be specific of what I felt and the emotions I felt and why I was so angry until 2 years after. After graduating. So that's why I'm asking you, like, in that moment, were you able to understand what you were feeling and articulate that, or were you just mad?
I think because that was the breaking point of like, there were so many things leading up that I was like deciding to not pay attention to, deciding to be like, beat the odds, right? Like I'm going to beat the odds. Like another thing that was told to me all the time was, you'd be really good at a D3 school, which is, I have like mixed feelings about it, because that is true. And I had D2, D3 options, but I obviously chose to go D1 for a reason. And I felt constantly degraded. But at some point I did accept like, okay, I'm not going to play, but what else can I do? That's like, I was totally fine being in the practice squad. Like
You were.
like helping with that, helping with the scout, doing like team captain roles. But again, I never felt valued for doing it all. But yeah, so I don't know. I mean, in that moment, that was definitely the breaking point, because that is when I decided, and I told my family firm, like, I am not continuing to play.
And I think that's something for if if coaches are listening, that's something that I learned going to CBU, because CBU is a winning program. But what I experienced at CBU is that every single person on that roster mattered. How we showed up in practice, from the last person on the bench to the starting five, is built the culture, and what helped us win games is how all of us showed up. And the moment that, and I was like our best practice player at the time, and when I had a negative attitude about being on the practice squad, I felt the energy shift when I came in with a positive attitude.
Yeah.
So that sucks that for 3 years you didn't get to experience like the gratitude that you should have for showing up the way that you did, because you literally filled the gaps in every place that you could.
Yeah.
Like literally.
I even remember we would have the stickers of like, you get a sticker for being like the energy sticker or whatever. I worked my ass off on the bench every game to get an energy sticker. I think I got one energy sticker in the 3 years of being on the bench. To the point where I would always joke like, oh, my teammates are getting injuries, like I'm losing my voice because I'm screaming so much.
Right.
And I was not recognized. There were some like assistant coaches who showed their gratitude for that, but I was never recognized. Like, and I was fine being that role player on the bench. And again, I'm not like saying I should be playing over Gabby Green or whoever, like not even you. That's not what I was asking for. It's not what I was expecting. It was just the simple form of being recognized. And,
as a human.
Yeah. And like you said, like your coaches showed that you mattered. I didn't feel like that. But when Coach A came, my senior year, so different. Like I was named captain, which even the seniors when I was a junior were like, you should be captain. Like, I don't want to be captain.
And with that example, if anybody didn't know a play, if someone didn't know where to go, if someone didn't know where the laundry room was, like the most complex things, they're asking Haley, like literally.
And even my senior year with a different coach, like those responsibilities were still on me of like, if the lockers aren't cleaned, like, Haley, like it's your fault you didn't get your team in check. But I was more okay with that because Coach A recognized me. She appreciated me. She made time for me. Like she saw me as a human. She allowed me, she allowed me to go on a walk with my mom on my birthday in Portland, like when we were on a travel game or on a travel trip. And I remember my sophomore year, we were at Gonzaga. I cried in my hotel room for like 2 hours before we left for a game because I asked if I could go on a walk and I was told no. And I had to be stuck in the dark room. And I was like, that was like, literally when I think of depression, I think of that because it was just so traumatic. Like there was no freedom, nothing.
So like, what do you feel like in those silent moments? I want to say there was a lot of those moments for us. We clung on to each other so hard, even in these silent moments. What would you feel like looking back in those silent moments that you learned from a hard practice or being in the dorms or experiencing tough moments like that? Like, what would you feel like you took out of that?
In the moment, I was telling myself, I just need to work harder. Like I'm doing something wrong.
Now looking back,
I wish I would have told myself, like, you're doing everything right.
You were.
Like, you're doing everything right and then some.
Yeah.
And then to go back to like the point where we were talking about like the breaking point is like when I did tell myself that and I was like, okay, I've led a horse to water and it's like not drinking it. And that is when I decided for myself that I wasn't going to play anymore. And then literally showed up and told our strength coach on the phone, I'm like bawling as I leave the house. And it was like random, like that morning we got a text that it was like, team meeting. But you weren't even you weren't there either. And it was COVID. And we sat down and I'm like crying in the meeting. And then that's when our coaches told us they were leaving. Yeah. And I was like, what in the literally what in the world just happened?
That same day.
Same day. Like every time I think about it, it's really crazy. And my tears dried up so fast. And I remember at the time, like you and I weren't even talking that much, but I texted you like that day.
My heart dropped.
Yeah.
I didn't believe you.
Yeah. And my dad is texting me because it was out on Twitter before like we were told. Really? And my dad is texting me like, oh my God, like, are you seeing this? Like, don't say anything now. Yeah. And so that was just crazy. But that's what happened when I did finally tell myself like, okay, you've tried as hard as you can. Now it's time to make a decision for yourself.
Looking back, do you feel like you should have waited that long, or it was just meant to be that way?
I mean, I'm so glad I did wait that long.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, also, like, quit, as cliche as it sounds, quit wasn't in my vocabulary. My dad was not going to let me quit for the better. Like, he always is like, you're going to work through this because you can just work harder and things are going to be better.
Exactly.
Because that's what was taught to him. That's the culture of sport. Like, it's not niche to me. That's how I was grown, especially not being as maybe talented as everyone else. It was like the work ethic. It was all of that stuff that allowed me to even survive in a D1 environment, and the discipline and the accountability that I had with myself. This episode is sponsored by PhysioWorks Physical Therapy. Sports aren't just about skill. It's about strength. And I'm not just talking about physical strength. Athletes train their bodies, push their limits, and build muscle to perform at their best. But what happens when injury strikes, or when movement just doesn't feel right? That's where PhysioWorks Physical Therapy comes in. PhysioWorks isn't just about recovery. It's about unlocking your full potential. Their expert team helps you rebuild strength, improve mobility, and prevent future injuries, so you can get back to doing what you love. Because strong muscles create strong athletes. At PhysioWorks Physical Therapy in Redondo Beach, California, they understand that true performance is both physical and mental. So whether you're rehabbing an injury or leveling up your game, don't just push through the pain. Work with the best. Because a strong body fuels a strong mind. And when both are in sync, that's when you truly win.
What's something that you wish someone would have said to you during your first year?
Okay, I think the same thing of maybe what I just said of like be kind, like you don't have to prove yourself.
Do you think that was possible?
I don't know, because then that's what I think too, is like, even when we talk about this stuff and what we tell young athletes, even if we were to tell, like if someone were to tell you, because we talk about it like with your recruiting visit to that school, even if the girls were to have told you like, don't come, you wouldn't have listened.
Still would have gone.
Yeah.
People told me that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was even asked like, why there? Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's hard because you're so caught up in the like sensation of the experience of what you have ahead of you.
I know.
Everyone always thinks like, yeah, I'm going to beat the odds. So I don't know. Yeah,
But
I don't know if that would have
like-
even helped.
I feel like you always beat the odds as long as you continue to keep going in the way that is progressive, even if it is like looking back. Yes, there was many times we were depressed and like sad about our lives
Yeah.
and just the experience that we were going through. But in a way, like I wouldn't have changed it in any other way because I learned so much. And I think even in life, I feel that way about every negative thing that happens in my life is like, I had to go through that for a reason.
Yeah.
And what am I taking out of it? Like now we have this podcast because of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Like,
I know. I think what my mind goes to when you say all of that is I'm just extremely grateful for my family, my support system. Because I would have never, like my mom, now that when we reflect on the experience, like from her perspective, like she was scared that I was going to like self-harm or something.
Right.
I never was thinking that because I felt so loved by my family and outside of it.
supported.
But I just think of like, and that's also because I went to school 15 minutes down the road.
Yeah.
You were like an hour and a half, 2 hours away. But like, if I think back and if I didn't have that aspect, I don't think I would have made it 3 years.
Yeah.
Or I mean, I did make it 4 years,
Yeah.
but like 3 years in the circumstance that we had.
Yeah. I don't want to cry, so I'm not going to comment on that. But do you ever feel like your love for the game started to fade?
Yeah. That's also what I was thinking of saying of what I wish someone maybe would have told me. And my dad did say this a lot too. So I think that's why, as horrible as it was for me, I, just like I said with the family, like I think back to all the people that I had supporting me, and that's what helped because they were all saying like the right things to me.
Right.
So like my dad would always say, connect basketball to a bigger purpose. Don't let basketball use you, you use basketball. And I think that's what always got me through. Definitely with that mentality, did start to see it differently as like fulfilling a job, or just the passion definitely dies down. And I think that's a universal experience.
Yeah.
I mean, you experienced that.
I think college, and I don't know how to explain it to people that haven't experienced it. Like when I tell my mom about it, it's nothing that she could truly feel or understand that dynamic unless you were in it.
Yeah.
Like I loved basketball through and through since middle school. And the moment I got to college, everything changed with the snap of a finger. And I can't pinpoint a moment. It was just the experience.
Yeah.
Like,
because playing basketball is such a different statement than being a college basketball player. Like
I agree.
now I say I love basketball, but I don't think I could say I love being a college athlete.
I've never met anyone that says I had the best experience as a college
Yeah.
athlete. I've never met one
don't
person
think I
that
have
has
either.
ever said that.
Yeah.
That's sad, but
But it just goes into like the system. And then for me, like add on the, like I'm not getting school paid for.
yes.
I have to do all these extra things. I literally remember one time someone spilled water during practice and our coach yelled at me to get a rag and go clean it up.
And I was like,
And like
I
the
think I
team
remember
managers were there.
I think I remember that.
That's crazy. Now things are just like popping into
Okay,
my-
so that goes into the next question. What's one memory from any year that still makes you emotional?
So the one maybe
why
that I
does it
had to
stick
do
to you?
EMDR therapy for.
Yeah, that one works.
I remember, and now because of
Don't start doing EMDR.
No. But because it works.
Yeah,
because
it
I
does.
now literally before EMDR, I would cry every time thinking about it. But it was when, and I think I talked about it maybe on our episode with Morgan a little bit, but it was during COVID. We had 6 players. I was going to approach my coach about how, again, at that point I had accepted I'm a bench player.
Right.
I'm going to do this the best I can, but I'm still going to work extremely hard on the court.
Right.
But with 6 players, you step up. Like everyone has to step up. I go to ask, like, how can I be ready? How can I be here to like support? I want to make sure I'm doing whatever. I was told that basically like what I heard was be quiet, stop talking to me. You're a walk-on. You shouldn't even be expecting this out of yourself. And the other girls deserve it more than you. And I went into a full panic attack, went into the locker room, couldn't breathe. Like 2 of our assistant coach had to like come in like,
Wait, was I there?
no, it was COVID. Yeah. Oh, I'm sure that probably happened.
I was like, I think I've experienced that with you before.
Yeah. I mean, that experience, that like panic attack experience wasn't the first time that happened, but
Yeah.
that was the worst that it got because I was like, that felt personal.
Yeah.
Because it's like you have 6 players. What are you going to do?
Right.
Like you're genuinely not going to play me? Like what if, and one of our best players was going to opt out and you opted out. Like it was like, that's when it felt extremely personal.
What do you think your advice would be for the athlete watching that does everything right, like you did, and doesn't get the outcome?
Continue to do it for yourself, for your own benefit. If things aren't aligning to your values, that's when you know that it might, like maybe if you don't want to quit, like adjust behavior so that aligns to your values. I feel like I might have steered away from my values at times or did things that felt super wrong, like not wrong, that it wasn't never wrong. It just felt like I knew I was being used in that moment. Like another moment too was when we were on a road trip and one of our teammates just had her ACL surgery, but no one was there for her because we were all on the road. And our coach made me call my mom to go pick her up from the hospital and stay at our house with my mom when we were on a road trip. No one was there, no trainers, anything were there to pick her up, and no one planned in advance for this. And my mom was like at work. And the fact that
Your mom even did this.
yeah, but because she knew though that she was so mad.
Yeah.
She was so mad.
I would be.
But she knew the position it would put
That
me
you
in if she didn't do it.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. Like my mom is a fully employed woman.
She's like
of
the
company.
highest
Yeah.
freaking
And
marketer
she's-
ever. Picking
Yeah.
an F. Melanie.
Yeah. No, from the hospital.
From the
Or for wherever it was. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So that's when it was like that definitely I was like, this
Oh
feels
my
so
goodness.
dirty. So that's an
But
example
you still
of
felt
going
the pressure to do it.
Yeah. So making sure that you feel confident enough to state your boundaries, to follow
What
them.
would you have said?
In this moment now,
Yeah.
like if this body were in
Yeah.
I'd be like, I would say that's not a possibility at all. My mom's
mom's
schedule is full. Like we can't, like I just would say no.
That is the craziest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah. But back then I didn't have the confidence in
Yeah.
my role on the team or in myself or anything because I felt like doing that I would be valued, like I would go up on the stock market, whatever.
Instead, you got yelled at to. Wow. Okay. So, do you think being a walk-on gave you something in a positive perspective, like something that people who had a scholarship didn't get to experience, looking back?
I think, yes, lots of positives, because I did know that my full life wasn't necessarily indebted to the team, because let's say I had gotten hurt or I did decide to leave earlier, I could still be at the school. So it was like, although
You thought that way?
like, it was always a comfort thing that I did say.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. I didn't always believe it because I didn't want to think that way. I didn't want to think that like I wanted to be all into the team. But I do remember using it to my advantage sometimes, because like for
Mentally?
but like I did communicate some things where, I mean, even as a walk-on, I had to host all the recruits in the apartment that I
Literally.
was paying for myself.
Yeah.
But sometimes I did say like, I can't go to that at night. I have like my sister's birthday. I remember that thing.
Yeah.
And I did come up. I was like, well, I'm not being paid to do this. So
I remember
I
you said
did
that
say,
a few
I think
times.
I said twice. I think
Yeah,
that was like, I
not a
only
lot.
used it twice. But I mean,
We
I
would
probably
joke with,
tried
like,
to.
the assistants, you
Yeah,
would say.
yeah. Always to the assistants.
Yeah.
Yeah. Never, I mean, only worked 2 times. So out of maybe
That's
like
it.
the 5 times I tried. But it definitely gave me a different perspective of like, I don't have to rely on basketball. I'm choosing to rely on basketball, if that makes sense.
What about like a life perspective? Now that you're outside of basketball, looking back, what do you feel like there's like moments, whether it's moments or work or growing the podcast, like that you've taken out of that experience to now?
That it's all in my control, not to be dependent on people really, because I feel like a lot of people who are on scholarship, and maybe not in women's sports, but now that
Depend
it's
on
getting bigger.
happiness? Like,
No,
dependent
depend on like resources. Like I was able to do things on my own because I didn't get my books paid for. So like for people who are on scholarship, books are ordered. Like you send in your syllabus, books are ordered, your supplies are here, whatever, everything is there. But I always had to do things on my own. Like I would go to the library, I'd pick it up. I'd go get food from wherever. Like I didn't ever have to like ask anyone for anything. So I think that created a form of independence within myself. I mean, maybe hyper independence, but now because I have the tools and the maturity, I'm able to like use the independence for my favor. But yeah, I would say that definitely, I was definitely taught that through the experience.
What about the negative aspect of it? How does it bleed into your life now?
The people pleasing. Not only was I independent, but I had to do things for other people to prove to myself that I mattered there, and thinking that was the only way anyone else was gonna value me. Like even the one card, because I got my own meal plan and we got like the highest one, and we would buy
Some random stuff.
but I would buy lunch or whatever for everyone on the team. And I was like, this is when we were freshmen, and like they like me because of this. I might not be good at basketball, which I was, but at the time I didn't believe it, but I can buy them lunch.
That makes me emotional because I feel like there's so much more to you that I saw, and there was a lot of moments that we experienced, like the coaches treating you that way, and it was never really the team at all. Like ever.
Yeah.
But the coaches treating you that way, like I was going through so much mentally that I didn't realize how much that could affect you, and like those experiences were affecting you, that like even planning out this episode, like I was so excited because I never asked you these things and I don't know why.
Because everyone is in there, and like, yeah, we're talking about my experience right now, but obviously you had your experience,
Right.
and everyone else had their own experience being on scholarship, still feeling the way that I felt. So it's not necessarily just the walk-on, mine was like exacerbated, I'm sure, because of that part, because
Don't downgrade it because that is bad.
it's awful.
The things that like that person has said to you and treated you, and like the hospital thing, like picking up a teammate and then you feeling like you had to do it because you needed to prove yourself, or like feel the need that you needed to be there, when you being there was so much more enough, because you literally filled the gaps in so many other ways, which it wasn't in a people pleasing way. I think naturally you do have that in you, but like you said, it was exacerbated because you wanted to fit in and you felt like you needed to do those things to like have a place on the team, which is wrong.
Yeah.
And if you're a coach out there that's bringing a walk-on, that's not the reason a walk-on is there.
Yeah.
You know, like at the end of the day, that's someone's child that you told their parents, like, you can come on my team and earn your spot, blah, 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 whatever, all the things she told you. That's so wrong because at the end of the day, you were a kid and naturally those habits form and you form so many adult-like habits in that transitional period that it's so sad. She treated you that
I mean,
way.
that's what, and I don't ever want to, especially as a therapist now, it's like, no one is ever responsible for your feelings in a way, which I have like, there's
I
a
get
caveat to that, but which is why I feel so passionate about the work I do now. And even what we're doing with the podcast is like, I didn't have the tools to be able to state my boundaries or work on my self-worth. Even if when I was in therapy, which obviously love all therapists, but I don't think I was in like the proper form of therapy during the time because I was never taught the tools to deal with it. Like my parents were giving me encouragement and stuff, but there needs to be tangible things that athletes can do.
Exactly.
And can be taught to know how to, because this is their first like
adult experience.
Yeah, and relationship with other adults.
I do feel like college coaches need to understand that responsibility and not take advantage.
Yeah.
Because we're not just like a pawn shop that does what you want. Yes, you're giving us a scholarship, but it's a two-way street. And the more you pour into me positively, the more I'm going to give back. That's with any, like even if a coach has a child, the more you show up for your child positively and pour into them, the more that it's going to be given back and the trust will be given back. Like we're technically these head coaches' children for 4 years. And that's the sad part, that I don't feel like they understand that responsibility because at the end of the day, I get it. It's their job and it's their livelihood, but they forget how much positive will come out with pouring in. Every single person on their team.
And even like, I even hesitate now to like look at teams at any level as like family because I feel like sports is such a business, especially now. So but even with that, it's like, whereas you're looking at it from a family perspective and I see it as like, okay, they're the athlete's boss, but still in that, like you want to have a good relationship with your boss, a healthy communication. You want to be valued and seen by your boss, even if you're entry level position, like that, you know that your boss sees you and that you're
valued. So another part of it is like your parents and like you said, your scholarship wasn't paid for by the team. So your parents were the ones who, you know, sacrificed and worked really hard to pay for your school. And I know that's something that you always admired and appreciated. Did you ever feel the pressure to receive a scholarship so that, you know, you can go back to your parents and repay that to them?
In the moment, because they never wanted me to
feel that.
Yeah, they never wanted me to worry about the money part of it, which I feel so extremely grateful for. But obviously, that was like the hope and the goal. And that was like, I guess, what I was working for, even though I could never see it. It wasn't like, if you do this and this and this, you're going to get a scholarship. I felt more like, okay, if I do this, if I do that and that and that, my, what's the word I'm looking for? No, the probability of getting a scholarship increases. So always, of course, wanting to be able to give that to them. And one of an assistant coach one time said to me, and this was my senior year, but the coach isn't there anymore. So like an assistant coach, but he says, the greatest gift you could ever give your parents is to earn a scholarship. Why haven't you done that for them yet? But like this new assistant coach coming in, not knowing anything about me or my journey and accusing me of that. I was like, oh, okay, I thought this year was going to be different.
Yeah.
But it was completely different. That was just like a random, like, it's like, yeah, of course I do.
Right.
And again, I think going back to what we're saying about like seeing your athletes, like and I'm going to say this a million times because I want people to know, like I accepted that I wasn't going to play. At some point, I accepted that. That didn't stop me from working hard. It didn't stop me from going to extra workouts to be the best practice player, all of that stuff. But I feel like I can confidently say, like, I was the glue to the team, like, all 4 years I was there. And, like, for that glue to not get a scholarship for doing
Literally
everything is really hard to wrap my head around. That also stopped.
Yeah.
Elite athletes know performance isn't just about what you do in the game. It's about how you prepare and how you recover. That's why today's episode is brought to you by Defend USA. If you want to stay in peak shape, you can't afford to ignore the power of recovery. That's where Defend USA comes in. Trusted by pros in the NBA, WNBA, MLB, and beyond, Defend USA's compression gear is designed to help you train harder, recover faster, and perform at your best. Their military-grade compression technology boosts circulation, reduces muscle fatigue, and helps prevent injury, so you can push limits without breaking down. That's why the best athletes don't just train hard, they recover smarter. Level up your recovery, level up your game. Check out Defend USA at dfndusa.com and at dfndusa on Instagram, and get the gear trusted by the pros. Because true champions don't just train hard, they recover harder.
When I see walk-ons getting scholarships, one, like bawling my eyes out every time. Like even like the most recent one at LMU, like that touched my heart like even more than it usually does. But like you don't see those girls getting court time either. So that's why I was going back to like accepting that it's like you're not playing, but there's so many things that you can do. People only see the 40 minutes, 30 times a year, but there's so many other things that go on behind the scenes to make a team function. And that's what my role was.
And I think that's why another reason why MTR is so important to us is because we know how much one person can affect the team and how that propels the team in a positive way, but it's stuff that you don't see on the court or the field or wherever. All those hours that you spend with your team and who you are as a person and how you show up every single day is what matters, and not the 40 minutes. And that might not be playing time for everyone because, like we always say with basketball players, a team, maybe 7 people play. And so the roster is maybe 15 people every team. What are all the other people doing?
Yeah. Even now going to games, like I love looking at the bench because I love looking at the bench, seeing what everyone's doing. Like even the team managers,
That's
like
how you know the culture.
Yeah, they're like the team managers are bought into it. Just watching the bench, watching everyone, like everyone is a cog in the machine. They all need to be doing their part to make, even the athletic trainers, like with the whatever, like those things that they wear to track the heart rate and everyone has such a special role. And it's beautiful to be able to see from the outside. I just hope that everyone feels as beautiful and as like valued as we see them like out of it now.
So do you, and this is a question that your mom has come up with, and I feel like I needed to say that because I know how proud she is of you, of this experience of all 4 years that you went through it, and what you endured is something that saw front row. And so she asked, do you ever give yourself any grace in realizing that while you didn't get a scholarship or much playing time, you were wanted on the team all 4 years, and that you were offered so much value in team building, coachability, organization, team liaison with coaches, player encouragement, and probably every other role on the team?
I mean, now, yes. In the moment, absolutely not. And that's what makes me sad is like, just genuinely how awful it felt.
No,
and again, that's not an isolated experience, but obviously we're talking about my experience right now. But just, I definitely did not give myself grace in the moment. But now, and I think back to like how, and one teammate that I do want to shout out my senior year, Ari Johnson, like she always would tell me how great I was and how much she appreciated me. Because I always tell her, I was like, and at that point I knew I wanted to be like a therapist and like in sports psychology. It's like, Ari, when I'm a big time sports psychologist, I'm going to say you're my first client. Like, because she was the best on the team, like always scoring 30, literally so great. But she was not just having a great experience. But I was always there to like lift her up and talk positively to her. And she was always kind. She always shared the appreciation. So moments like that always made me feel good when it was like my teammates would recognize it and say something. So in moments like that, I was able to reflect and give myself grace. And now, absolutely. Like, I just think of even like how I was saying EMDR, like I just think of me now like giving myself like a huge hug in that version of myself, because again, it just felt like I was constantly in survival mode.
Yeah.
And there was no shutting it off even when I slept.
Yeah.
Even literally, I remember.
Even when you woke up, it's like
Oh, yeah.
immediate.
I would go to
Even
sleep.
to think of waking up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would go to sleep scared that my alarm wouldn't go off.
Yeah.
So I'd be nervous to even go to sleep.
Yeah.
But like that's how much in survival
honestly,
mode we were.
like looking back in your state, like how you said, like I still had school to rely on, and it was gonna be paid for whether I was on the team or not. I'd be like, F the alarm.
Yeah.
If I don't wake up, what?
Yeah.
They're not gonna play me?
Yeah. But that's why I think literally like one of the first questions you asked was I was fueled by fear a lot, of fear of doing something wrong. And I didn't really have the ability to make mistakes growing up.
Oh.
Like in college, yeah, but already growing up, like always had to be on, always had to be at practice early, always had to be getting good grades in school. Like there was no room to slack off or to not do something because I would have faced consequences from my parents, nothing horrible, but just like that was how our family functioned. So that fear of being late, fear of doing something wrong, fear of not being enough was, to circle it all back, was literally like what drove me, I think, because I didn't want to know what it would feel like to mess up or to not succeed.
Really mess up.
No, I didn't.
Like,
because I didn't allow myself to. But neither did the culture. I mean, people on our team messed up, didn't maybe make the right decisions all the time.
but we prided ourselves on doing the right things all the time.
Yeah.
But I think looking back, yes, it's stressful. But honestly, for me personally, I think that's life, because life is just going to be what it is. And whether you show up in a positive way, negative way, don't show up, do show up, life goes on.
Yeah.
And so I think it built our character.
Yeah.
It is now.
But now we can like mess up. Like if I show up to work 10 minutes late,
Oh.
no one's going to die. No, like not bad.
That's just
like
me.
no, but like that's the thing is like they do say in some instances, yes, you always want to be on time, whatever. There's some in work environments, I'm sure, where it's like if you're 10 minutes late,
Not okay.
there's consequences. But
what's gonna happen?
yeah, like what's gonna happen?
But I wish I had that mindset.
Yeah.
In college.
I did. The survival mode 24/7 is just insane to think about.
Yeah. I still feel that now. I think
Really?
I'm doing EMDR on that now.
Interesting.
So, final question. Do you think this experience is what shaped you to promote mental health and, you know, go into the profession that you're in?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Just again, I feel like I said this already, but knowing that I didn't have the tools to deal with it.
And you were in therapy.
Yeah, I was in therapy, but again, I don't think that it gave me a safe space to talk about everything, but I was never
what are
taught
the tools?
Yeah.
Right.
So that's like what I feel like I was missing. But I think 100% it shaped that and motivated me to be a therapist in the sports psychology world, doing this, advocating all this stuff to young athletes, and just knowing that there was such a lack of it and helping athletes identify their needs in the moment, because sports culture isn't going to change drastically. As much as even when our generation becomes coaches, only the best of the best are going to be coaches, and they probably come from winning programs, winning whatever.
It's cutthroat.
Yeah. So it's always going to be that way. But it's, again, giving athletes the tools to be able to do that to their best of their ability, still live their best life, live as healthy as they can. Obviously, there's going to be the moments when you feel like you can't deal with it.
Right.
But if you have the proper tools or spaces to talk about it and to handle it. Yeah.
That's our biggest reason for MTR, is to provide that space and that all the tools that we possibly could give any athlete.
Yeah.
Because I think even the culture of what sports is, it's just going to progress, whether it's negative or positive, more cutthroat or not. Having the tools mentally to train your mind to be prepared for any situation and all situations, that also would carry on to life. It's going to be beneficial.
Love you. Did it record?
And that's a wrap for today's session in the mental training room. If you found value in this episode, make sure to subscribe to our show, share it with a teammate, friend, parent, or anyone you think would benefit from listening, and follow us on the Instagram at mtr.
We'll catch you next time inside the mental training room. If you are currently experiencing a mental health crisis, please dial 988 for emergency support.